Everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Hey guys, it's still morning for some of y'all. How y'all doing? It's been an interesting first 3 days of 2026. I will say I did not expect to actually ever hear from them. Actually, I can't say never. I've wanted to hear from them. I'm really glad we finally heard from them. A lot of things that we've sort of already known are definitely being confirmed, which means Howard Bloom, as usual, and again, Howard Bloom, Blum, whatever, is a liar. At least when it comes to Melissa Kohberger. We know that Amanda Kohberger, Bryan's other sister, was at the sentencing with their mother. But before we get started, I do want to ask you guys, do you remember where we originally heard that it was Bryan Kohberger's mom that had heart issues? Because this article says it's actually Michael that has the heart problems. But I just didn't remember where we originally heard that it was the mom. And I tried to find it, but I didn't have a lot of time this morning. We're trying to get some stuff done in the house. But I don't remember where we originally heard that part from. So wherever that came from, I'm going to just assume based on the article that's now being, written off of the sister's interview that it was never Marianne, that it was actually Michael. So we're going to go ahead and read this entire thing. And I will say, I know it's probably going to hit a little bit different when I'm reading it out loud, but I didn't want to go into this completely blind. I really wanted to see how Mike Baker was going to handle this, because I feel like there's got to be a reason why they chose this magazine. And I bet you anything, because of how important this interview is and how many people have been trying to get this interview, they were probably able to choose who they wanted to speak to. Mike Baker, I mean, this feels like probably one of the most unbiased articles that we've probably read from anyone in this entire case. Again, I was getting ready. I was doing things while having it read to me. So maybe I'll feel differently reading it out loud. I don't know. Probably not. I didn't feel any sort of like, it was stuff that was being said, rumors that were being said that he was reiterating as she was then coming out with the truths. And it really didn't feel like he put his own twist on it, which I appreciate at this point because that's how I currently feel about it. So we're going to read this. We're going to read this. Put a 1 in the chat if you had this on your bingo card for 2026. I honestly didn't. I knew it would probably come eventually, but I feel like it's early. But maybe this is happening right now because it really needs to happen right now. Maybe this is perfect timing. I don't know. I just know that this article makes it very clear. Very clear. This family had no idea. Melissa makes it very clear. The family had no idea what was going on. It was apparently not even discussed. Like all the rumors said, all the things that were being said, not true. Interesting. Yeah, according to this, it's dad. Right? I feel like it's pretty soon. But then think back though, like we've been indulging so much in the information while also living our lives. It doesn't feel like it's been almost 7 months. That shit happened in June 30th, July 1st-ish, considering the way that the paperwork is signed. Crazy. It has been like a while. It's been 6 months. But I am really, really glad that we're finally hearing from them. I am really, really glad we're finally hearing from them. Now, there is also a clear up about her job. The way that it's put in the article is that she basically left the job that she was at because people wouldn't stop bothering her boss, which tells me that she probably worked for a decent human being that wasn't going to fire her because of the inconvenience, but she did the right thing and left in order to not give them hell over something that they had no control over. Oh, thank you for the 5, Michelle. Yes, thank you, RC, for sending me this. They sent me this really, really early this morning. I saw it as soon as I got up. I had a couple things to do, but at the point in time that I was sent this article, no other mainstream media was talking about this, because you guys know I don't click on links. So as soon as I saw it, I went and like typed it in from New York Times, and it was the only one that popped up when it came to Bryan Kohberger's sister interview. No one else, the Idaho Statesman, nobody. Now, if you go and Google it or Bing it or whatever search engine it, there's like 12-ish or so within the past 2 hours talking about it. So they sent it to me really, really early. But, you know, I don't try to be like the first to go live with stuff. So I'm totally fine with all those little mainstream losers getting it first, because we know we here at least have integrity when we're talking about these things. So that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Yep, she left on her own because she didn't like how everybody was bothering the boss. That it was not fair to them. Okay. Let's go ahead and read this. Again, this feels like a really unbiased article, like it's to the point. Again, listening to it. I did put a link for it in the chat, but I will tell you it's subscription only. So I signed up for the free trial. I have it for like 3 months, I think. You know, you can always just do that and cancel it. I'm not saying to do that, but you know, it's a possibility. Okay, let's go. Her brother pleaded guilty to the Idaho murders. Now she's ready to talk. Since the arrest of Bryan Kohberger in the murder of 4 college students, a case that captivated the nation, his family has stayed silent. His sister now describes their pain and confusion. Now, I will say, I know like the wind is getting her hair, but considering that this photo is going to be going viral, they could have actually like edited this to make her hair not look messy. This is like no talking shit on her or whatever. She was trusting their photographers. They could have done better, and they still have a chance to go in and edit this shit and fix it to where her hair's not messed up in this photo. That's like the only unbiased thing I saw, because I know damn well that if this was like a celebrity or somebody from the other side, they wouldn't have done that. That's just my personal feelings. But I like her gothic style. This is pretty much like how I dress. I'd probably wear that kind of stuff if I was skinnier. Okay, and that's Melissa. That's not Amanda. Amanda is who went to the sentencing with Marianne. Okay, and again, this came out at 5 o'clock Eastern time this morning, January 3rd, 2026, by Mike Baker. The harrowing news had spread across the country in the fall of 2022. 4 college students were found to death at a house near the University of Idaho campus. Mel Kohberger, who was preparing to start a new job as a mental health therapist in New Jersey, could not help feeling a sense of alarm. Her brother, Bryan, was living just 15 minutes away from the scene of the mysterious killings. Investigators had no suspects, and Bryan was just the type of person who would leave his door unlocked and go out on late-night jogs. "Bryan, you are running outside and the psycho killer is on the loose," she remembers telling him. "Be careful." He thanked her for checking on him and assured her that he would stay safe. Obviously, they talked. I mean, a lot of people try to say that he didn't have anything to really do with his sisters. They didn't like how he behaved. They used the cell phone situation to say that that's the reason why they had no relationship, and none of that was ever true. The majority of us already knew that. Him and his family were fairly close. And the fact that he talks to his parents so much, along with his autism diagnosis, makes that make even more sense now. Makes it make even more sense now. In early December that year, her brother returned to their parents' home in Pennsylvania for the holidays, and later that month, Miss Kohberger got a call from her sister, Amanda. Law enforcement officers had burst into the house in the middle of the night and placed Mr. Kohberger in handcuffs. She was like, "I'm with the FBI. Bryan's been arrested." Miss Kohberger said, "I was like, for what?" The response, the Idaho murders. For a brief moment, she wondered if that was a prank. Why do they use that word so much? That is one thing that I noticed, that when it comes to these interviews and the way that people initially react to things, why is prank? I never in my freaking almost 40 years sit back on any situations that I have ever been in and ever remember thinking initially, oh, this has got to be an actual joke and be serious. Like, I know sometimes people might like have that initial like, oh, you've got to be kidding, but that's a whole different thing from thinking it's an actual prank to the sarcastic remark of, you've got to be kidding. Y'all know the difference, right? You know the difference of what I'm trying to like, the way that I'm explaining it. Am I explaining it right? Like, to me, there's a huge difference between really believing that you're being pranked and expecting this to be bullshit and the sarcastic reaction of, unbelievably, holy hell, you've got to be kidding. Like, there's a huge difference. I just find it strange that that's used a lot. Then a sense of nausea overtook her. Literally overnight, the mystery of who took out 4 young people in an ordinary neighborhood full of college students gave way to a new question. Why Mr. Kohberger, a reclusive but dedicated PhD student who had been on a path to a career in criminology, may have mounted a silent and brutal attack on 4 students from another university who had no apparent connection to him. The arrest upended the lives of Kohberger's family. Tabloids stationed cameras outside their home, snapping images of Miss Kohberger's father, cleaning up the damage from the police raid. Yeah, they broke so much on the outside and most likely more of the inside of the house. Online sleuths scrutinized footage of Amanda acting in a 2011 horror film that also involved the same situation. Miss Kohberger said she was angered by internet posts from people who speculated whether her family had known all along that Mr. Kohberger was the killer. I have always been a person who has spoken up for what was right, she said. If I ever had a reason to believe my brother did anything, I would have turned him in. And I mean, they called the cops on him when he was younger for stealing a phone and taking it to the mall to sell it to get money for his substance issue. They have a proven track record of turning him in if it's necessary. So I have no reason not to believe that statement. They've already proven that. Whereon, on the other hand, and yes, I'm going to go here. I'm sorry, but I have no choice. When I see this in my mind and I see a complete contradiction from another side, I have to mention it. A lot of you guys know, or at least a lot of you guys should probably know by now, even though I've only spoken about it periodically because I don't personally want to dig into this portion of Olivia Goncalves' life. But there was a DV incident involving her and her husband. And in the damn police report itself, it says that Christy Goncalves told her daughter not to call the cops. Kohberger's family is the complete opposite. When they had to, they did, even on their own son. I'm sorry, but you can't help but notice that drastic difference. You can't. For the past 3 years, the family has kept quiet, avoiding interviews, even as Mr. Kohberger pleaded guilty and accepted 4 life sentences. His parents and siblings wanted to do everything in their power to respect the victims' families during the legal process, Ms. Kohberger said. And even now, she expressed fear that she might say something that could further traumatize them. Her family's challenges, she said several times, cannot compare to what those families have endured. So even through all of this, look at the consideration they're still taking for all the families, even the Goncalveses who are wishing that somebody R-words their brother in prison and takes his life. Even to those people, they're showing compassion. Another drastic difference. This article is going to make me mad. I feel like this article is going to piss me off. Like, I read it, but it's different again when I'm reading it out loud. Like, I let it be read to me while I was doing my makeup and doing my coffee. But you don't hear every word as hard as whenever you're reading it out loud. That's really crazy. Okay. And while the family still does not want to discuss the crime itself, Ms. Kohberger agreed recently to share part of their story, saying she hoped she could bring out the truth about her family and what it has been like to be dragged into the epicenter of a true crime epic. Family members of high-profile criminals have long struggled to navigate the collateral infamy thrust upon them. The Kohbergers found themselves not just interrogated by detectives. Halt. MPD never spoke to the Kohbergers. And I have that from Amber that works for Moscow Police Department. When I asked specifically, I believe it's even on the 11-4 recorded phone call that I've let y'all listen to a part of where she says that she doesn't even know the suspect's name. It is on that one. I really need to get that one put out there to the public. MPD never spoke to Bryan Kohberger's family, and the only interview that Moscow police ever did with Bryan Kohberger was the day that he was arrested with Brett Payne going into Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is refusing to release the interview without subpoenas in a courtroom and all the other things. And all of that could still result in the FBI doing the same thing that they told to Moscow, which is, it's not happening, don't ask for it. So detectives can only be FBI, because Moscow never spoke to them. Never spoke to them. but subject to the scrutiny of an assortment of amateur sleuths, part of a true crime fervor that has brought millions of people together in Facebook groups, Reddit forums, and YouTube channels. When her brother was arrested, Ms. Kohberger had been training to start a job as a mental health counselor, but her new employer was so flooded with inquiries that she agreed to abandon the position. More recently, a book about the case emerged on Amazon. Remember that fake ass book that we called out? Remember the fake ass book that we were right about? More recently, a book about the case emerged on Amazon with an author listed as Melissa J. Kohberger, suggesting that someone was trying to make money by selling a false version of her story. It's confusing, she said. It's painful. It's like being victimized, but not really being a victim. Yep, we called that book out the second we saw it. Mr. Kohberger grew up in the Poconos in a home centered on family, with readings of books like The Little House on the Prairie and lessons rooted in their mother's Catholic upbringings. We had never heard really anything at all about the way that Kohberger thought about religion or anything like that until we read the report from the interview that they did in Pennsylvania. That's like the first time I remember hearing like anything religious about that side. Ms. Kohberger said she and her brother and sister had been imbued with values of loyalty, self-reliance, and putting the needs of others ahead of their own. Some of her fondest childhood memories were the nights when her parents, Marianne and Michael, ordered takeout food and woke up the children, laying blankets out on the deck. There, they all looked up at the stars, talking about astronomy and wonders of the world. There's a reason, Steve Goncalves, why Bryan Kohberger does not need any sort of app on his phone. He's been taught the shit since he was a child. If you are taught something and it's ingrained in you, you don't need the help of freaking AI or technology. You can look up like the natives used to and read the stars. You can look around and know without an app. So we can take that off the table now. Friends have described how Mr. Kohberger had been overweight as a teenager and had a standoffish personality, something the family now believes was related to autism. He endured persistent bullying, Ms. Kohberger said. He wrote online during those years of having no emotion, little remorse, and feeling as if he was an organic sack of meat with no self-worth. Later, he spiraled into H addiction. All very true, all very public. I don't know if they've been erased. I haven't checked the actual website in a long time, but there are, I think, like 3 years worth of postings. I think it was it Yik Yak? There was also a bunch of stuff that he would answer over on a forum called Quora. He's always basically been like the Sheldon character off of Big Bang Theory. Ever since the very beginning, that's exactly how I pictured him. And the more that we've read and the more that we've heard, and now even hearing this, like that's really just concreting even more. Remember, we were talking about him being possibly autistic like within a few months. Within just like a few hearings and like seeing how his mannerisms were and just getting a little bit of information, we were pretty much already on that train. We pretty much kind of knew that. When he stole Ms. Kohberger's phone and sold it at a mall to buy more substances, more H, and remember, we talked about that because I believe it was in the Amazon. Was it the Amazon one that came out? No, it was the Dateline one. Somebody called in and was part of the show that said that he was the person that Bryan Kohberger called that night to go over and pick him up. And he drove Bryan to the place where he sold the phone. And again, I know that a lot of people like just want to insert themselves into situations, but when we already know that there's a police report, when we already know based on court records, it was agreed between both sides for them not to even mention the 2014 incident, when we know for a fact that it's a factual situation, I mean, I really don't have any reason not to believe a guy who's coming out and saying, yeah, I'm the driver. Yeah, you know, like this was the situation. The police report would show that it was false. Dateline knows that. There's no reason not to believe that they actually did that together. That's pretty common for people with substance issues. Let's see. Okay, right here. Her parents alerted the police. Ms. Kohberger said they were all worried that he was on a path to an early death, as ultimately happened with one of his friends. Yes, the friend that he was friends with in school. So Kohberger was, again, somebody who was picked on a lot, but he was friends with somebody who was like MVP, like athletic, popular kid. And in the book written by Patterson, there's portions of where the mother of I'm not saying his name because I don't remember. Is it Jeremy? I want to say it's Jeremy, but I'm trying not to like just say the wrong name. So that's why I'm keeping it really, really vague. But Kohberger's friend's mom, she's in there a couple of times, and she talks about how even Kohberger had gone to the house at some point before the son died to like make amends because he was in some sort of rehab thing, which we also know is very true about his past. So yeah, he'd already seen a friend of his completely die because of this stuff. So I always really question, is it because he was so underdiagnosed that all of that stuff ended up happening? Because a lot of stuff that goes on in the brain can cause that, but also traumatic events can cause you to go into something so severe like age at such a young age. And at first, that's really what I thought it was. But then the more we learned about his diagnoses and different things, I really felt like maybe it was really just the way that his mind was working and him trying to just figure it out. It might not have been a traumatic event, because a lot of people were really thinking that, because we just never know. We never know what really happens inside people's homes. A lot of crazy shits come out about a lot of people that it was really unexpected with. But the more that we learn medically, I just feel like maybe that was it. That he was using it to try to feel something else because his brain just was off. I don't know. But it's a part of his past that's not made up, so it's important to talk about. But after he went through treatment, she said, Mr. Kohberger seemed to be on a better trajectory. She and her brother both shared an interest in crimes and psychology. She was pursuing a career in mental health therapy. He began discussing a career in policing, going on to study psychology at DeSales University in Eastern Pennsylvania before getting accepted into a PhD program in criminology at Washington State University. We were also proud of him because he had overcome so much, she said. He was still socially awkward and could be abrasive, she said. They often argued. Still, she said she never saw him be violent. Once, when she tried to force him out of the house during an argument, he de-escalated the situation by holding back her hands. That lack of violent history was one reason the family found it so disorienting to hear that Mr. Kohberger was accused of such a barbaric crime. In the days before the raid, the family had gathered for Christmas. Ms. Kohberger remembered being thrilled to see her brother back home in Pennsylvania and hugging him tightly. To accommodate the strict diet he had now followed, their mother had made him vegan cookies for the holidays. They played TV party games. One night, Miss Kohberger was cleaning up the kitchen. A sharp edge of foil caused her finger to bleed, and her brother, initially expressing disgust at the sight of blood, helped clean the cut and cover it with a bandage. Yeah, see, that was actually something else that came out in court, was that he had this, like, biological OCD, I guess you can call it, because there are different flavors. Just like there's different flavors of autism, according to TikTok, there's different flavors of OCD. His is like Howie Mandel when it comes to germs. That's why him wearing gloves is not an uncommon thing. That's why him washing his hands so much is not an uncommon thing. It's not. We saw while he was in jail how bright red his hands were from constant scrubbing. That is something that's always been a thing for him. That's why he wasn't good with a knife when he was a teenager and tried to work at the fishery. He had no blade skills. He couldn't figure it out. He wasn't agile at all. He has dexterity problems. Like, they literally picked a guy that medically cannot do any of the things that they're trying to claim that he did. Have y'all not, like, noticed that for, like, almost everything? And a bunch of this stuff was actually coming out, like, way before we had paperwork. I'm still just, every day, still just, like, dumbfounded about how we got where we are. I really am. During those days at home, Ms. Kohberger said she recalls him only briefly mentioning the Idaho murders, saying that investigators were still hunting for the killer. Investigators, after going weeks without naming a suspect, had turned to the public in early December and requested help finding a white Hyundai Elantra of a model year between 2011 and 2013 that had been seen circling near the victim's house on the night of the killings. Ms. Kohberger, knowing that her brother had driven a white Elantra back from school, said that she briefly wondered if they were looking for the same model, but then learned that his was from a different year, 2015. Now, this is the only part where I will tell Mike Baker that he needs to do better. Bryan Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra was given to him by his mother. His sister would have known this? His sister would know this. The car was in the family for years, driven by the mother before it was Bryan Kohberger's car. The sister would know this. So right here where it's making it sound like, oh, she knew he drove one, but she didn't know what it was until later when she found out it was a 2015. I have the Carfax. We've had the Carfax. Everybody's had the Carfax. It's his mother gave it to him. His sister wouldn't have been shocked or have been like, oh, I only know that he drove one home. No, you'd have known that he'd have had it for a long time at that point. Other than that, so far it's fine. But this is important. This is actually pretty important, like where the car came from, especially when it comes to the make and model, and because that's what they're trying to say puts him there, which we already know is false. Unknown to the family, investigators had pinpointed Mr. Kohberger as a suspect within days of his return to Pennsylvania. They were already surveilling the house. In the early hours of December 30th, 2022, while Mr. Kohberger and his parents were alone in the house, police officers burst in with guns drawn, shattering glass, and rushing to place him in handcuffs. These older people in there with just this one guy, and they have to go in there just insane. In court, law enforcement officials said that Mr. Kohberger's DNA was found on a knife sheath that had been left next to two of the victims. Let me just throw this in there. The Q-tip that eventually ended up showing Kohberger's name was resubmitted by MPD over to ISP, which we did not know until recent documents came out from the Idaho State Police. It is marked as a resubmission with no details as to what happened to the first submission, what the actual swab of the resubmission was, or any details at all accompanying that, other than the fact that resubmission is marked off on the chart. That is the only piece of evidence that puts Bryan Kohberger there, and simply because it's something that can be picked up from a pin pad at Walmart, they think it's important, which is bullshit. There's also several other unknown DNAs on the same exact knife sheath, the same knife sheath they are refusing to show us a picture of as it lays at the crime scene. For those of you who might not know, this channel paid $200 for information from MPD about the knife sheath from the time that it was found at the scene on 11/13 to the time on 11/16 it was picked up by a state trooper and then brought over to, I think it was Meridian, to meet with another officer who was then going to bring it over to ISP. They gave us 3 photos that looked like they were taken on the exact same day of the evidence, not the evidence, but I guess the evidence log, the check-in, check-out sheet for who was dealing with the knife sheath on a bag. It looked like it was written with the exact same marker by the exact same person, all at the exact same time, just for the sake of needing to actually send me a photo. It was not legitimate looking whatsoever. On top of that, they went through 685 emails related to the knife sheath and only deemed that 2 of them were, public information. The rest of them they couldn't give to us. And again, the same knife sheath that has multiple unknown DNA on it. Okay. Amazon records showed he had purchased the same style of knife. And then, okay, well, let's stop right there. We have been asking this entire time for the damn receipts. They have given us no information at all when it comes to Amazon. They have not given us anything. And you know damn well that you can go to Amazon on your computer, on your tablet, sometimes even on your freaking gaming systems. You can go on Amazon and you can go to any receipt for the entire life of your account. And it shows you the item, how much you paid, how much the taxes are, where it went, if it was delivered. It's very easy. And there's multiple different formats for this, depending on where on the freaking website you click. Why are they refusing to give us that? Because they're refusing to give us that. They have been doing nothing but wasting time this entire time. And never mind the fact that during the grand jury, they claim to have used a sample of the knife and the knife sheath for the grand jury. Why are you using a sample of the knife sheath for the grand jury if you picked up a knife sheath from the crime scene? Why aren't you just using the knife that was repurchased as the sample, but then using the actual knife sheath at the grand jury? That's weird. That's how I read the documents. That's weird. Why can't you just release the freaking receipt? Is it messed up the way the DoorDash one was? Because again, we've been told the whole time the DoorDash was for Xana. The DoorDash order came from Ethan's account. There's no picture of the food being dropped off. They're not giving us anything when it comes to time that it was actually placed. Nothing. Nothing. And we can't say it's the normal 30 to 35 minutes because of Molly the DoorDash driver's timeline and her ridiculous story for that night that I'm just too exhausted to go back into today. If you know, you know. If you don't, there's videos. Please scroll. We cannot directly connect Bryan Kohberger with 1122 King Road or its residents. Bill Thompson. I mean, I don't really know what else people need. I don't. And then there was the white Elantra. Investigators determined that the car seen near the murder house matched the model he drove, which it doesn't. It doesn't, because they don't have any proof. Just like in all the daylight cameras, they still can't say that they can see a license plate on any of these damn cars. They're trying to say that he made all these movements in the daytime. That's in the probable cause affidavit that they use for his arrest and for the searches and all the things. But we've been able to literally pick through the PCA and find out that it's an entire lie, just to then see Bill Thompson admit the exact same thing and it not change anything. And they still can't give us a working theory. They still can't give us the narrative that they actually worked with because the feds told them not to basically even bother. Don't ask him so that we can fill in the gaps. It's not going to make sense to anybody. So don't even bother asking him. It's trust me, bro, across the board. From don't ask him a damn thing to trust the DNA we gave you, even though we deleted the profile we used to give you the answer. Like, come on. I've been explaining this to my dad this whole time. He's like, well, we already know the university's covering up something. Thank you. Yes, we do. We sure freaking do. Ms. Kohberger said her mother has been praying daily for the families of the victims. Ms. Kohberger herself has put the names of the victims, Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, and their birthdays into her digital calendar so that she will get reminders about them. During holidays, she said, her family has felt grief that Mr. Kohberger could not be with them, but then she would think of the victims' families and the pain they must be feeling. Even the ones that wish her brother were dead. The idea is making me so emotional that I can barely speak about it, she said in tears. Steve Goncalves, the father of Miss Goncalves, said he had sympathy for Mr. Kohberger's sisters and the scrutiny they had endured in recent years. But he said he still had lingering questions about what Mr. Kohberger's parents might have known or suspected. I wish he would have been more honest about the way that Steve has behaved, because Steve has also come out with a bunch of lies saying that the Kohberger sisters went through his car, they suspected him the entire time, that the family knew that he was guilty and like all these things. So being more honest about that might have been good right here too. As the criminal case proceeded, the Kohberger family was troubled by the intense discussion around it. Mr. Kohberger's emotionless mannerisms, which the family attributed to his autism, became something people treated as evidence of him being a monster. Research has not established any conclusive causal links between autism and violent crime. This is true. But it has put links between how people react to things, how they emote certain things. And it's a very on point for what we've seen. That's for sure. Thank you for the 2, Natasha. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, where were we? Okay. There were reports that he had interacted with some of the victims on social media or had gone to a restaurant where 2 of them had worked, but investigators later dismissed those claims. And see, this is important because right now, ever since the Walmart stuff came out, Kevin Fixler at the Idaho Statesman and all these other idiots are out there trying to say, oh my God, Bryan Kohberger was at the same store as one of the victims within a few hours. Oh my God, this proves he was stalking them. We literally have it everywhere on record that they never crossed paths. All of the camera footage from all of those damn stores at that shopping area proves they were never, ever in the same place at one time. They've done that investigation already. So I'm glad that he put this in here. I don't know if the New York Times ran with that stupidity or not. I don't know. I didn't check. I probably need to. But I'm glad that he put this in here because maybe now these idiots will stop repeating the dumb shit. I don't understand why these mainstream media morons get a little bit of a headline and they don't do more research. It would take just as much effort to be a loser as it would take to go in and actually look at the documents and find the facts Instead, they want to come out here with the salacious ass lies. And the majority of people believe it. These comments on these things are so asinine. Like, does no one even bother to do their own research at all? Like, I know that there's so many sheeple out there. Like, I'm so aware. But in this big old age of 2026, okay, this big old date of 2026, with all the bullshit that we, especially in my generation, have seen our entire freaking lives, how do you just sit there and just believe dumb shit without asking for any proof of anything? Or how do you sit there and see that somebody was at some place hours apart and then still say, oh, yes, that's proof. That's proof that he was stalking them because he was at a store 4 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours different than someone else. I'm sorry. What kind of parallel universe is this? That is not what that means. And so many people are just believing the dumb shit without even using their freaking heads. Oh, that's proof he was a monster. He was stalking their every move. That's proof he was watching everything they were doing. What? It's very stressful. Thank you for the 5, Cynthia. I appreciate that. Thank you. It is very stressful. Oh, yeah. They don't even bother. And it's not like we're gatekeeping information. It's on a freaking website that's very publicly available to the freaking public. Like, all it takes is a little bit of effort to give a shit. That's all it takes. I mean, I just... There's only so much you can say. There's really just so much you could say, honestly. All of the attention, Miss Kohberger said, made it hard to imagine that her brother could ever get a fair trial, and she could see that the wild speculation surrounding the case seemed hurtful to the families and friends of the students who died. Once an avid true crime fan herself, she now looks back on that with regret. Well, it's all going to continue. Like, I understand her stance, but it will continue because they've given no answers. And if you really believe that your brother is innocent, then you have to understand why so many people are still out here asking all the questions. I get what she's saying, but it's a catch-22 at the exact same time. It's human nature to be curious about darker things, she said. That's how we keep ourselves safe. But I think we should try and come together for a true crime culture that is way more protective and empathetic to the families of the victims, which, again, I agree to, unless they're hiding things, unless they're lying. Because at the end of the day, the only story that matters is the story of the victims themselves. And those are the people's stories who are not being told. Again, it is almost 1 p.m. here in Texas on January 3rd, 2026. We don't know what time Xana and Ethan got home that night. We're all still just trying to figure that out. The families don't know what time Xana and Ethan got home that night. Where's the truth? Where's the facts? We all here know that when we received that silent footage, so did the families. The families are even being sent the bullshit, not the truth. And according to everything out there, the Goncalveses are technically gatekeeping the truth, are they not? So, yeah, you can be empathetic to a point until true colors start to show, and then you have every right to ask all the questions. And that's why we will continue, because the Goncalveses are hiding a lot. They knew about that 17-minute long phone call with Jack. They chose to not say a word. They said they saw the girls get dropped off. No, they didn't. Unless there's a completely different camera angle than 11-12. No, they didn't. And we know that that's the one that Steve Goncalves has because he sent a screenshot of it over to Brett Norton during the days of the Linda Lane leak in order to say, hey, the noises don't match. You mean the scream at 2:27, Steve? Something else you also failed to mention to the public or even bother to get out there this entire time, if indeed you do have a copy that has sound on it. This is why we have empathy until we no longer need to. Again, I can feel for the fact that they lost a child, but I don't have sympathy for somebody who's come out here for 3 years straight and told straight up lies and then disappeared into the shadows like he's not responsible for ruining the stories of the other victims in the case too. Because the bullshit they pulled about the door being shut is what did a bunch of drama that was completely unnecessary to Xana and Ethan's timeline. But there's no responsibility for that. There's no accountability for that. Why? because he lost a child? When does that stop you from having to actually behave like an adult? It's a real question. It's a real question. The family has tried to support Mr. Kohberger. Since his arrest, they have held regular calls with him, avoiding discussions about the details of the case. Ms. Kohberger said she has kept him posted about life back at home, and he sometimes talks about his latest interest in psychology, the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, and the bicameral mind theory, in which two sides of ancient human brains operated independently. For his birthday, Ms. Kohberger asked his family to make a cake that he thought his sister Amanda would like. He asked Mel to blow out the candles. That's wild. Through it all, they have tried to reconcile the son and brother they loved and still do with the man depicted by prosecutors and the police, the man who pleaded guilty to killing 4 young people with no apparent motive. When he entered the guilty plea in July, his parents attended, with his mother sobbing in the front row. Weeks later, when he was sentenced, Ms. Kohberger had hoped to attend, but she stayed home to care for her father, who had developed heart problems. They watched the hearings together on television. So again, it was not Mary Ann. It was not Kohberger's mom who had the heart problems. It's Michael. So I know I saw one person's response to where the information came out about it being Mary Ann, but I don't know if everybody else has the same memory, because I honestly don't remember the first time we heard it. Like, I wanted to say that it was mainstream media, but I'm just not sure. But who told us that? Does anybody know where that actually originally came from? Because that's what we were told for like a while now. But that was one of the very first things that caught my attention. I was like, okay, we need to find out where that came from. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, broken heart for sure. Was it the book? Was it the book or his freaking air? I think his is airmail articles. Yeah, I know Marianne already had her own health issues. Yeah, that's really, really sad that that took place to the point to where like neither one of them can go because they didn't trust that he could actually be alone, especially with all that stress. I guess not. I guess freaking not. Okay. Some of the victims' family members, given a chance to address the court, unloaded their anger at Mr. Kohberger, who sat largely in blank-faced silence. "You're definitely a demon from hell," one family member said through a lawyer. "The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty," said another. We already know that it was Olivia. I don't know why he's trying to protect that. I guess this is a bit unbiased, considering the fact that everyone knows that, and all these honestly sick people, I don't really care. If you're a guilter who sits there and like to somebody saying that they basically hope that he gets R-worded to death, like on national TV in front of all these people in like the most disgusting way, then I really don't know what to tell you. I think that that's like pretty gross of your I think that's a gross side of your personality to just like, yeah, that's awesome. If that's really how you feel, then I have issues with that. Like I get somebody being angry, but at that point, we know for a fact they were angry at themselves, don't we? Because what did the Goncalveses come out and tell us? That when they met with the state that morning, all of the lies and all of the bullshit that they were out here spreading, again, things they were not told from the state because the state refused to talk to them because they're messy as hell. They had to go in and rewrite all of their impact statements because they had no information correct. So at the end of the day, wasn't Olivia just projecting her own anger for not actually paying attention and having to rewrite the whole thing because they held nothing but false information the entire time? That's how it felt to me. Especially after we heard that. How do you say that publicly. Everything we knew was a lie. Everything we wrote in our statements wasn't true. So once the cops told us the truth, we had to rewrite everything. How do you say that publicly and then still just like not come out now that the facts are out here and start asking the right questions? How do you go and meet with the state because you're still confused? Come back and do a nationwide interview saying, yeah, I went there, but after a few days of thinking about things, I left with more questions than answers. And then you still just sit back and you're not actually out here with the evidence that's out here and the facts asking questions. Why? At this point, to me, they just see a big payday in some way, shape, or form. Because how are you not? For the sake of your freaking child, how are you not? The judge said that he could not discern any redeeming quality in Mr. Kohberger because his grotesque acts of evil have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. This is something his sister made. And isn't that the autism pattern? Isn't that the autism pattern? Through it all, Mr. Kohberger sat with his hands in his lap, nothing in front of him but a pen and a piece of paper that appeared to have a small drawing on it. Get ready. Get ready. A lot of people are about to feel like shit. On the internet, some of the amateur sleuths watching the proceedings zoomed in to scrutinize the sketch, speculating that it appeared to be a dark heart. Bryan Kohberger keeps drawing creepy drawings close during sentencing for quadruple killings, a tabloid headline declared. In truth, Ms. Kohberger said, it was a heart surrounded by vibrant colors that she herself had drawn for her brother. Even if she could not be there in person, she wanted him to know that he was loved. And if you look at the picture, I don't know if it's on here. If you look at that damn picture and you look at the way that the colors look on it, it looks like she drew a heart inside of an autism pattern, is what it looks like to me. See this right here? See if I can get this to open all the way bigger. Oh, come on. Okay. See this right here? Does that not look like the autism patterning around it? When you look back at the little heart. See? That's it. That's the article. It was pretty well written. I will say I like the way Mike Baker wrote it. I just really wish that he wouldn't have just like protected who said those things. We all know that it was Olivia. I just wish there was a few things he would have been more direct about. But other than that, it was a decent article. He did pretty, it was pretty balanced. But yeah, I was glad that we finally heard from them. So many things that we already knew, that so many people held on to, that was false, to condemn him even further without ever even hearing from them. They just took these stupid mainstream people's words for what they claimed to know and ran with it without even hearing a word from his family, and condemned him based off of lies being told from people they never even actually heard from. Isn't that crazy? It's very, very sad, especially knowing that they really do care about what happened to the victims too. Like, I understand what they're saying. I'm going to still keep asking all the questions because, maybe not all the victims' families are okay with how things actually went down after all. I'll just say that. I mean, it's obviously not the Goncalveses, because I think if they actually gave two shits, they'd be out here saying something, because they've already had the spotlight. If they were to come out here and actually start asking for real questions, everyone would listen. everyone would pay attention. What they don't want to lose is all the sympathy. They don't want to lose the GoFundMe money. They don't want to lose everybody constantly sending them presents. Right now, they get sympathy based off the fact that people believe and are content with what happened here. If they start questioning that and coming out and being honest, they lose all the pretty things. See why we still ask questions? Somebody has to. Somebody has to. I'm going to go help my son finish the yard. We're going to be grilling out today. And then me and Dad are going to try to go fishing again. I know some of you guys were asking about that yesterday. And thank you for all the birthday wishes for him. I'll let him know that here in a minute. All you guys that were putting that in the chat. We didn't catch a damn thing. We were lied to about the wind. And even though it was a freaking full moon and we went right when the almanac said to go, the wind was not 10 to 15. It was more like 35 to 40, blowing my big butt over, and it just was not working. And we tried 2 separate times. We went like around the noonish time when I posted that picture, and then we went later on in the evening to a different area, and the wind was even worse. And we drove all the way out there to give up in 10 minutes because we just couldn't do it. But it's not as bad today, so we are probably going to try again tonight because I'm determined, damn it. I feel like the last couple of times me and him have tried to go fishing with him up here, something with the weather has just gone wonky. And considering that it was a full moon, that should not have happened, but no one was catching anything. The second place we went, there were literally what Dad called full mooners out there with the rod holders in. I swear he had like 25 rods just hanging out and multiple family members all just like keeping eyes on him. Nobody had caught anything in hours. On a full moon night. Very odd shit. So hopefully tonight we actually catch something. Keep your eye out. I might let you know if we do. But if you don't hear from me, just know it was a failure. But that's it. Again, the link for that is in the chat. You have to pay for it. That's why it was just better for me to come out here and read it. It's a good article. I'm waiting to see how mainstream takes this and tries to twist it. Because you know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. Thank you for joining, BA, and thank you so much for the $2. I will see you guys probably tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to go live again tonight. I might post something later, but probably not. We'll see. Dad goes home tomorrow, so probably not. We'll see. Depends on if anything happens. Thank you for the super chats and the super stickers and the new member. I appreciate you guys so much. Y'all go have a relaxing Saturday. It's the weirdest weekend. A lot of people were like, this is the Mondayest Friday ever because of the way that it landed right after the first. And you know, they were right. It was very Monday-ish. But hopefully today you guys are feeling a little bit more relaxed. Y'all go have a decent time relaxing. And I will talk to you guys soon. Let me go ahead and roll this out. Please do not forget to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. All right, you guys. See y'all.